reaction to what's going on with Venezuela and the reaction by the world and ordinary Americans. I'm going to use that. I'm going to react to Chris Norland, who is a Vietnamese American who's living abroad and sort of watching from afar. And I'm not going to lie, he's pretty upset, and I think he sort of is the sounding board for a lot of ordinary Americans. Let's have a look.
Are also at stake. Mr. President, we cannot ignore a central element of this US aggression.
For context, this is the Venezuelan representative of the General Assembly talking about the US invasion.
Venezuela is the victim of these attacks because of its natural resources. Our country's oil, energy, strategic resources, and geopolitical position have historically been factors of greed and external pressure.
Right? So they're basically just calling it out like USA thinks it can bully us because we have, USA as a military term to threaten us kind of things, and this threatens not just Venezuela but the world, and effectively USA just wants the oil, right? Here they're directly from Venezuela. I also want to show you other points of view. This is actually coming from China.
Posing a grave threat to peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean, and indeed internationally. China firmly opposes this, and the international community has also expressed widespread grave concern and strong condemnation. We urge the US to heed the overwhelming voice of the international community, abide by international law and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, cease infringing upon the sovereignty and security of other countries, stop toppling the government of Venezuela, and return to the path of political solutions through dialogue and negotiations. We call on the US to ensure the personal safety of President Maduro and his wife and to release them at once. We support the Council in fulfilling its primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security. We support all efforts by the UN Secretary General, regional countries, and organizations that contribute to promoting dialogue and de-escalating the situation. President, the lessons of history are a stark warning. Military means are not the solution to problems, and the indiscriminate use of force will only lead to greater crisis. The US bypassed the Council to launch military operations against Iraq, blatantly attacked Iran's nuclear facilities.
It is a correct.
Just before Chris continues, this is. Just to correct myself there. That's looks like from the Chiron banner there that it's the Security Council in the UN, and that's interesting because, this UN Security Council is made up of all the powers that have nukes. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Especially in the event of this, it shows that you are not a sovereign nation if you don't have nukes. That's how the world works now. Forget everything of the past 80 years. That's all gone now. International law, rule of law, that's all. If it ever did mean anything, it really doesn't now. That's the reality. We are living in a dangerous world now where anything can happen. This is the precedent that the world's most powerful country has set now. So let's not be naive. This is the reality that we live in now. So everything about you know, the UN, which was set up by the US, United States, is made for the US. The US has sort of said now we're moved beyond that. You notice the Democrats have not really putting up a fight. They're on board with this. They just wanted to go through the procedure. That was all they want. Oh, it has to go through Congress. Not that they oppose it, not that it's disgusting, but Chuck Schumer wanted to vote on it. So there is no. It's the old world order is done. It's funny how all the MAGA Christians would go on about the new world order and all the QAnon idiots. Um, and now that it's come out that the new world order is made by um, MAGA Nazis, they're fine with it. And that the pedophile president. They were going on about about save the children, and they're like, they're fine, pedophiles. And all this cover story of moving back to Venezuela. I mean, all this stuff about drugs and all that, it was just all garbage. All those fishermen died for nothing. They died for oil, I should say. They died so that America could feed its economy, and Trump could also, no one's going to talk about Epstein right now, so it's going to move Epstein off the headlines. So now for the next at least week or so, the news cycle is going to be Venezuela. So it's a bleak world that we live in, but at least it's masked off. I mean, for Indigenous people, we've always lived in a dangerous world. Let's not kid ourselves. But now the mask is off. It's not about, essentially racism is there, but it's a racism. It's the handmaiden of empire and colonialism. But they'll change the rules and goalposts and say that just to make you part of the out group. So default setting, it's always Aboriginal people, um, and then everyone else on a sliding scale. And that means white people. I mean, case in point, when I was a kid growing up, Irish people weren't considered white. Italian people weren't considered white. Greek people weren't considered white. But now they are. So, it's this sliding scale of, making people in the out group and the in group, and, to keep the narrative going for whatever reason it fits. But at the end of the day, there's all Nazis. And, you know, they're using this sort of narrative to basically continue empire, because empire is failing. We saw the narrative, China's the bad guys, but just by that statement they're saying, like, we oppose this, don't do this, go back to diplomacy, and, stop toppling governments, the government of Venezuela, and also, guarantee Maduro's safety, because this sets a precedent now. America, and Trump has been saying it, he's going to keep on with. He's talking about Colombia now. He's talking about Mexico and Canada. He's been saying Canada and Greenland. And I'd say anywhere in the world is not safe. The soft power, the age of soft power is over. So, yeah, and China's the only place that can actually, it's the only country that can really challenge um, the US. So, yeah, let's see what Chris has to say.
Crazy situation to where we're looking for China to be the same people in the room. I mean that's where we're at. And I
Exactly.
just want to remind you again, this is the messaging from the United States right now. That's their messaging, right? So this is what everyone is reacting to. And again, they attacked Venezuela. That's why it's like even Mick Kelly's calling this about like turn on Fox News, it's all Russian propaganda. I just didn't think we would see this period. It's hard to explain. Like, I grew up in the USA. I teach international relations in university, and my meeting when I was watching this, I was thinking about Cuban Missile Crisis, and we would send our people to the UN to call out the Russians. And basically, what we're doing like now, it's like being reversed. Like China and Russia are coming to you and to call us out. It's just unbelievable. I'm in shock because I understand the gravity of the situation. I get upset, I get angry. It shows how we've really lost our place in the world. There's no way you can defend this kind of rhetoric or trust. I'm just showing you guys what it looks like.
Colleagues, United States.
This is our hemisphere. This is our hemisphere. That just says it all. They're saying it out loud to the world's face. You don't think all the governments of the world are looking at this and going, okay, let's quickly get our defense budgets up. Let's quickly develop uh, air defense weapons and nukes. All sane world leaders have to be looking at this and saying, quick, get me the we all saying, get me the defence minister online now. You know, we need to make this happen yesterday because this is threatening the whole world. Okay, sorry.
So I'm just showing you guys what it looks like.
Colleagues, the United States successfully carried out a surgical law enforcement operation facilitated by the U.S. military against two indicted fugitives.
Trump's buddy, Trump's real estate golfing buddy. Let's see who this guy is. An absolute idiot.
Of American justice, narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores. Colleagues, Nicolas Maduro is responsible for attacks on the people of the United States, for destabilizing the Western Hemisphere,
Absolute
and
lie.
illegitimately repressing the people of Venezuela.
Everything they say is a projection of what they do. They accuse the other person of what they're doing. I noticed it about these guys, these Nazis.
As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country.
Which is garbage, because Trump himself said, Marco Rubio, and who was the other guy? So Marco Rubio and somebody else, the other name escapes me. But he said that they're going to be, Hegseth, Peter Hegseth, they're going to be sort of overseeing. So it's going to be just like Iraq, where they had these administrators and governors. That's what this is. This is new colonialism. They have a new governor or viceroy or, take over their new province. That's exactly what this is. This is what we're living through right now. I mean, what's to say that, America doesn't say, turn around to here tomorrow to Australia and says, oh, actually, yeah, we want to take a hold of all the, rare earths processing and control it completely. So, yeah, we're just going to take over the country, and we'll have, our ambassador to Australia run the show. Who you might say, oh, Desert Owl, that's crazy. Is it though? Is it?
This was a law enforcement operation.
So he's going to try to make the case. You just heard right there. This is a law enforcement operation. Is the case they're going to try to make the same way that when I talk about.
So what does that mean? Someone could bring up a case against me in a domestic court, or go to Congress and testify in front of Congress and say that, my YouTube videos are subversive and a threat to national security, you know, or some other YouTuber or Australian YouTubers or something. And, um, the US government could do a law enforcement, quote unquote, law enforcement action and come over, send over the military force and kidnap me and take me back to Australia, or anyone. Take Albert, Albo, you know, our Prime Minister. What's to say? Which is like, I think this is what most world leaders will be thinking now. Oh, America could just do this to anybody in the world. So, yeah.
The Vietnam, they called it a conflict for a long time. Was it a police action? What they were claiming. Yet, remember the whole goal here is, so I show you this Southern Hemisphere stuff. Trump wants to send the oil companies down there to go get the oil and send the troops there to go protect said oil. That's what the plan is. And then they talk about, running the country. And then they play word games with you guys. Oh, this is a law enforcement operation, what they say.
There is no and can be no justification for the crimes cynically perpetrated by the United States in Caracas. We firmly condemn the U.S. act of armed aggression against Venezuela in breach of all international legal norms. In connection with the confirmed reports about the presence of the abducted president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and his spouse in the United States.
I don't like Russia very much, I don't make it clear on that, but it's crazy when they're. What it ends up being is that USA loses their moral ground if they're going to try to tell other countries what to do when we're basically.
Yeah. The only morals are might and power. I don't. I think just, you know, um, he doesn't seem to sort of understand that. Um, or maybe he does. And he's just like, just want to face that reality. That, yeah, might is right now. This is like the medieval world now. We're going back to a time when, old empires, so there are all these empires. But look, it's pretty depressing. It's pretty sad. Um, yeah, this is the world we live in now. Um, yeah, there's not much else to say. All right, if you made this far, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.